We're so excited to have Bob Allphin with us. He's going to talk about DXpedition. I love DXpedition. I love to hear about them. I'll probably never go on one, but that's the next best thing to hear. Now, Bob, I looked up his biography. When he retired a few years back, he decided he's going to work pretty much full time on DXpeditions. And it said that he had been to 11 of the top most desired DXCC countries. He's been to 11 of the top 10. He'll explain to us how that was. But he is going to talk to the Bouvet DXpedition, which was in this past January. We're fortunate that Bob lives here in Marietta, which is almost Lawrenceville. We claim you. And I think you've been here before, haven't you? Yeah. Third trip. Okay, we'll get you back next year. Let's give a big hand for Bob Allphin.
So, I wanted to just say something from the heart about this club. I am a member of one club in the Atlanta area, and that's the Southeastern DX Club. And I have been since the early 70s. That is what I call a vertical club. In other words, there's just one interest, DX. And so to satisfy the other interests in this wonderful, diverse hobby, a lot of the members, like the two I see right in front of me here, that are members of Southeast and have been officers in the past, come to a club like this to be able to enjoy and participate in some of the other aspects of the hobby. You all are a diversified horizontal club. And I'm just amazed as I sit here waiting to be introduced later, all the aspects that you all are involved in. And I congratulate you for that. Good for you. Keep it up. Okay. All right, got a little surprise for you. I don't think it's going to make the presentation any longer. I took some Bouvet slides out, pared that down from 2,000 to 1,500, and added some pictures from a trip I took last August to the Austral Islands. And I want to give you kind of a range of projects, if you will. Bouvet, on the other hand, took about 3 years to plan, and if I were going to go back, it'd probably take another 2. And I don't know if I have all that time that I wanted to devote to a project like that. It was dangerous, very dangerous. It would have taken 6 weeks. I was gone a month. We paid a lot of money to be on the team, and we bought a lot of clothes to keep us warm, spent a lot of money on those kinds of things. So that's at one end of the spectrum. And then flying into Tahiti from Los Angeles on a big airplane, checking into a hotel that had room service, was another way to do a DXpedition. So we'll compare those and we'll contrast them, okay? Well, if you don't know the story, we got there, but we couldn't get on the island. We'll talk more about how all of that happened. It was a big, huge disappointment, as you might imagine. So my plan is to talk about the 3Y0Z story. I've got some fantastic photographs, not 1,500, but I've got a number of really impressive photos. It'll give you an idea what the world is like down there. I want to discuss our due diligence process, how we selected the boat and all of those kinds of things. Talk about what we learned. Talk about the possibility of another attempt. We have decided to refund the remaining funds that are in our checking account, and that will probably begin right after the first of the year. Our recollection is that George contributed $250. And after hearing the balance in your checking account tonight, I think I'm not going to offer you a refund. that's an option, we'll see, I'll let you know. Okay, you could ask yourself, was this an Apollo 13? You may recall that the guy barely got back, didn't reach the destination, went around but didn't land from the moon and came back. This slide may not mean anything to you, but it means a lot to me, because we did have a long string of successes. I say we, me and other co-leaders that I've worked with, and of course a lot of the team members. These are all of the, with the exception of HK0NA in the right-hand column there, which was number 12. There are, in fact, 11 top 10ers. If you haven't figured that, it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense mathematically. But when you go somewhere and you make a lot of contacts, then it's no longer in the top 10. Something comes in to replace it. Let's talk about the investment. Travel, depending on what part of the world you're coming from, $2,000 or $3,000. Hotels about $500. But to be on the team costs $18,500. As the treasurer and one of the co-leaders, the strategy is to get half of the money from the team. And with that, you can make deposits on ships and all of the things you need to do. And then ask the DX community for the other half. $1,500, maybe $2,000 in clothing. I had all mine left over from earlier trips. So I think it's fair to say that each team member had $20,000 or $25,000 invested. To say nothing of the 31 days they spent on that boat in the Southern Ocean. You've heard of the Furious 40s? No, Furious something 50. Anyway, it's wild, wild weather down there and the sea. It's something 40s. Roaring 40s. Furious 50. That's where we were. Started off okay. We were down there and found out that the boat wasn't quite ready, and it was in the final process of getting the renovations finished and the various approvals. Stayed in a hotel for 3 nights, a not so nice hotel for 6. Kind of remind me of a camp out here. This is about half the team where they slept. And but it was a nice place, and there were many restaurants nearby, and so we found something to do. As it turned out, the owner of this place was the band leader of a Black Sabbath. What do you call the band?
Cover band.
Cover band.
Or tribute.
And interesting character. And his whole place was decorated with scenes like this. Made it fun. Here's the obligatory picture in front of the big statue in Punta Arenas, Chile. The idea is if you rub the foot, actually I think you're supposed to kiss the foot of the Indian there, then you get to come back. I did that last time and I went back, so I passed up the opportunity this time. We had 2 or 3 days of safety training, crew training. The guy on the left works for the company that we chartered the vessel from. His name is Alejo. He is a world famous guide and a glaciologist. He's been to the South Pole 16 times and is the first South American to traverse the continent of Antarctica on skis. Just to be in the same room with him, pretty impressive. Dr. Glenn Johnson, they call these survival suits. The problem is that one size fits all. So I wouldn't survive because I wouldn't be able to get into it fast enough. But if you could, it'll keep you warm and afloat. And even had some firefighting training. Finally, 5 days late, all the permits were received. We moved down to the hotel onto the boat. And there it is. The motor vessel Matanzas. And the company is named DAP, the initials of the founder, who came from Croatia, by the way, in the late 1900s, and right before the turn of the last century. And all the family members are now working in this company. But a DAP, and they changed the name of the boat to Developing Antarctic Project. Because just like the people back in the gold rush in California that really made any money were the people that were selling picks and shovels to the miners. And I think the real money made in that part of the world is moving stuff from either Ushuaia, Argentina, or Chile back into the area of Antarctica, and then charging people handsomely to do it. It's a beautiful boat, 225 feet long. 2 helicopters, not one. They had 6 of these 20-man life rafts, so we had enough life rafts for 120 people. There were only about 40 of us on board. 20 crew and 20 team. Greg, K9CT. Guy on the right having a cup of coffee is the first mate. Good shot of the helicopter. Now we're departing Punta Arenas. And basically we're heading to the northeast. You see the blue track that's going off to the upper right-hand corner? That's the track to take us down the Straits of Magellan. Rather than go south and then around the tip of South America, to cut through the straits. And that saved us about a day. So here we are underway, beautiful weather, calm. Some people might say calm before the storm. I might say that. Were we excited? Yeah, very excited. We had a lot to keep us busy though. We had 14 ACOM 2000s, 1500s, sorry, and they came to us in cardboard boxes like they would ship them to you. But you don't take cardboard on an island like that. You need to transport them, and then you make sure that you had them in doesn't blow away. So we're moving them into some boxes that we had made for that purpose. And here's some shots from the inside. This is kind of the meeting, eating, greeting, we call it. Had a big screen television. Before I left Atlanta, Marietta, I bought 23 movies at books, half-price books or something like that. And it wasn't enough, because we watched 23 movies about 23 times. But anyway, this is where we would go and spend most of our time. And this was a meeting room, which we pretty well converted into a storage room. And this was a popular place. This was the comm room. They had 2 stations set up here, and we had the communications in the first table there, communications equipment, satellite communications, and that kind of thing. Our email system was there, and then in the second table, we had 2 of the Flex 6500, and those are the operators. I'll show you the antenna in a second. Now, this is the hallway going down the passenger area. All of these things are connected. On the right-hand side, you've got 5 staterooms, same on the left. And you could sleep 4 people in each room. So we only had 20, and room for much more. So we had 2 guys, maybe 3 in some of the rooms, and that was pretty comfortable. The antenna was a 1480Q mounted on the bow and grounded to the vessel itself. You get a vertical antenna anywhere near salt water, it's a killer. And running 100 watts, we were S9 all over the world. Did you work as Paul?
Yeah, I did.
How was the signal?
It was good. It was a good signal out.
100 watts. We were very encouraged by the fact that we were able to make contact so easily. Do you work as Mike?
Did on FT8.
On FT8. The guy on the right is the W6IZT. Greg has been on some trips with me. and he now lives in, moved from Atlanta up to Blue Jay. Blue Jay?
Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge. Nice Blue Jay. This is a close-up of the station. This is one of the Swedish fellows that was with us, and quite a good operator. The guy sitting down, bald-headed fellow, K9CT, you saw him a moment ago. He has converted his contest station in Illinois to all flex radios, and is a big, big fan. In fact, I think he's some of their ads. So his job was to train us on those radios, and he did a great job. We used them, we liked them, and we're looking forward to using them on the island. Interesting statistics here. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see that we've made about 10,000 contacts while we were maritime mobile on the vessel. And on the left-hand side, you can see, what the distribution of the contacts was. This is interesting too. Obviously, the best band. Look at the column second from the right. That's the total. We made up 4,200 contacts on 20 and 3,700 on 40. Remember, this is an antenna that's just on the original band, 40, 20, 15, and 10. And on 15 meters, we made 1,600, something like that, which was very encouraging because we had thought that we would have an opportunity to make USOs on 15 meters. And in fact, we did. It boded very well for what we hoped would happen on the island. 3 meals a day, more if you wanted it. Making good time. What you see on the left there is our departure. Again, you see us coming through the straits. And then the first set of islands that we encountered were the Falklands. And we passed south of them. And we encountered the Commerson dolphin. I'd never seen these before. And I looked them up, got these beautiful pictures, and then looked them up on Wikipedia. And it defines them sharply delineated black and white patterning, and it's found in the tip of South America. So that's where we were. But they're really beautiful. I say animals, I think they're mammals, I don't know. Pretty cool. I love sunsets, and this is one of the few that we saw. It's usually gray and not so pretty. Anybody know what this is? Albatross. Wandering albatross. These pictures don't do it justice. That's probably a 6 or 7 foot wingspan. And they literally can fly around the world without stopping. And use those big wings to do a lot of gliding. I'll go into some of the teams. This is my personal physician. Not really, but he was invited to go along, and we had 3 doctors, Arnie and 6HC, and Jim and 9PK. Jim's been on a couple of trips. The first one was with me to Clipperton. Al, JR4OZR, good op, good guy. Ista from Hungary, HA5AO. Mike from the Netherlands, PA5M. Mike was with us on Tier 1. Just, not just, but Just, LA9DL from Norway. Remember, the island is owned by Norway. They had 2 Norwegian fellows. There's Craig again. I'm going to take some of these pictures of Craig out. Wait for them. This is Keith from British Columbia. Paul, an interesting guy. He's 25 years at sea, graduate of the Maritime Academy, and now works on cruise ships going up from Alaska, from Vancouver up to Alaska and back. Jeff, NM1Y. Jeff is a relative newcomer to the hobby. I think he's been licensed about 4 years now. And I know him because, and you know him, looking at you, Ruth, because you spent some time with his QTH on the island of Sabo.
Yep.
Great guy, as you well know. We've talked about that.
He's awesome.
Anyway, he's quite accomplished. He's done an awful lot in his very short ham radio career. Jerry, WB9Z, great contester, great station, and a great guy. Al, W8HC from West Virginia, has our first trip together. Vallejo, I showed you pictures of Vallejo. My son has a beard, and I sent him a picture of Vallejo, and his response was, "Great beard." I guess he would argue about the color. His is still black. And there's Glenn, and not a bad beard. W0GJ, one of the physicians. And Ralph was my co-leader, K0IR, also a retired physician. There's Hawk, SM5APD, he is from Sweden. And there's Bob. And there's Erling, the other guy who was from Norway, and secured the permission for us to land on the island. And now here's a local fellow, George, and for GRN. I don't know if you've met George, member of the Southeast DX Club, great guy. He's our logistics manager. And there's another shot of Greg. Now, most of these pictures that you're seeing were taken by Nodir. Nodir is from Tajikistan. And it's called EY8MM. He is a terrific operator, but he's a really terrific photographer. Next set of islands we passed was South Georgia. We're not talking about Dustin here. We're a group of islands down in southeast of the South America. And there's some shots that we took from the vessel. Every day, whales. And then the weather started to change. It's taken out the porthole of my room.
You weren't watching Gambleton's Island during any of this trip, were you?
Just you mean to make me real bad? I've got another one I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. So it's a down arrow, right? Okay. Just some more shots. At this point, we began to encounter iceberg, and we had to maintain a watch. We didn't, but the crew did, and we were altering course from time to time to make sure we didn't encounter one of these boys. If you've ever seen one up close, it's an amazing sight. Guess that means the big one. Okay, after 12 days en route, we arrived at Bouvet January 31st. We departed on the 19th, arrived the morning of the 31st, and here's what we found. Hour after hour, wind, snow, sleet, clouds, overcast, fog, and the problem is there was no contrast between the white snow, or the glacier, and the weather. No contrast. So that's a no-no to fly in that kind of situation. But we've been, in this part of the world before, we've had to just wait it out, and it would always be open. But didn't work that way this time. Just some more shots. See the thickness of the glacier there? The current team, by the way, there is a Polish team, 5 or 6 guys, that are in Cape Town now, which is a better place to depart from, who think they're, let me rephrase that, the plan is to get on a sailboat and sail 1,800 miles and then land in a dinghy, carry the equipment and everything up onto the glacier, and then operate for a couple of weeks. We think they're crazy, but we wish them well, because if they are successful, then we don't have to go back. More shots.
Place that a dinghy could actually arrive there and safely land?
Probably could. I don't know if successive dinghies could with equipment, getting the equipment out of the dinghy and then up on 200 feet up an ice bridge to get up where you could operate a set of camp. We'll see. These guys are younger than we were, and the leader of this group that had set foot on the island in 2000 as part of a tour, and I think he's, in his mind, he's said, well, we'll just do it like they did. We'll see. They've had a recent meeting with the ZS boys down in Cape Town, the same ones that do the big party for us. And I contacted them after, and I said, well, what'd you find out? Because we don't know anything. My website doesn't really say anything. He said, we don't know. We didn't talk about it. Well, we'll see. Maybe he has painted himself into a corner. Okay, what I want to do then is show you the left-hand side of this photograph. You see the cloud or the little storm or whatever it is that's coming into the picture. I'll show you subsequent pictures that are taken about 5 minutes apart. Well, we held numerous meetings with the helicopter pilots. There's a layout on the left, the helicopter pilots on the right, and it became obvious that they were spooked. Spooked by the weather, the infrequent and very short flying opportunities, the large amount of stuff that we had to get ashore, including 14 radios and amplifiers, antennas, masts, 8 6.5 kW gensets, 5 shelters, 23 men with water, gas, personal gear, and the fact that the boat was not exactly sitting still. So we modified the plan. Reduce the size and scope of the planned operation, reduce the amount of stuff going ashore, and adopt what I call the MVC, Minimum Viable Configuration Mode. It's what we did on the Vasa, A1N. We were staging out of Jamaica. It was an hour flight over to Vasa. We had one helicopter. We got 15 men, 6 radios, antennas, generators, amplifiers, everything we needed, food, water, in 6 flights. But it was the absolute minimum that we needed. So the idea was, now that we're here, now that we see what the situation is, let's get on the island, but we may not have 14 stations. So we may not have 22 antennas. But let's get on the island and make some cues. And of course we would stage on as the weather permitted, and then stage off. And Ralph, my co-leader, briefed the team.
Bob, did they ever do a recon flight, or were they able to?
Never took off. And there's the team listening to this, thinking, hope this works. This is in the bow of the ship where most of our heavy gear was stored, including the shelters. So since about half the team had never had an opportunity to practice putting up one of these Antarctic shelters, it made a lot of sense to do this. The guys who had done it before just kind of stood back and watched and offered suggestions. But obviously, we wanted to be able to get these things up as quickly as we could once we got onto the island. You see the tower sections there in the front. Meanwhile, outside, the wind blew and blew. Oh, you don't want to see that again, do you? All right, it's now February 2nd. Remember, we got down to 31st of January. Clouds and fog moved in all day. It was obvious something was going on, and there was a big red blob on the weather radar. About sunset, the winds picked up. We had gale force winds predicted for the next 4 days, and we found that 2 anchors could not hold the boat. What I want you to look at is the speed/gust column, probably the 3rd or 4th column from the left-hand side. We're looking at February 3rd and February 4th. The one that really catches my eye is at 60 miles. So at 0600 tomorrow, on the 4th, 75-mile-an-hour gusts. Well, I missed it. We had 80-mile-an-hour winds the night before. And the boat could not stay at anchor. What you do in a case like that is you take your chances maneuvering. And while we were doing that, well, I'll tell you in a minute. At 11:45 p.m., while under power trying to hold position, the coupling on the starboard engine failed. Passenger area filled with smoke. That was fun. We donned our life vests and settled on deck at the designated spot. Fortunately, we learned quickly that there was no fire, but the rubber coupling had overheated, failed, and caused the smoke. There's some smiles in this group. So this was after we found out there was no fire. But I would call your attention to my co-leader, second from the left, who scared to death. Everybody else is high-fiving. Next day, it blown through. It was a beautiful day. We thought, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. But there was a concern that if the second engine failed, that we'd have a problem with maneuverability with icebergs around and, of course, the shallow shore. We're a quarter of a mile off of the 60 feet of water. So if we got the team on the island and lost that engine, what do we do now? This is the most isolated island on Earth, which means it would take a while for somebody to come help us. So the captain did the only thing he could do, and that's abort the mission. Unable to complete the mission safely. So we head back to Chile. We're heading into the wind, we're heading into the waves. We go for 2 days, and we had a replacement coupling that it blew, and we had made very little headway, maybe 60 miles, something like that. So the decision was made back in Punta Arenas at management, turn around and go to Cape Town. That way we'd be downwind and with the current, and so we immediately headed north to get out of the ice floes. And that picture shows you that South America is a lot closer. And the boat spent a month in Cape Town. And here in the upper picture you see where we made that rather abrupt turn after 2 days. So here's the Norwegians. Maybe another time. So how do we feel? Well, it all depends. This is a fake picture, but it does show you that there's several ways that people could feel. They could feel okay. They could feel relieved, like the guy on the left. Or they could say, that's not what I signed up for or paid all that money for. And, you know, that feeling is still throughout the team today, you know. Just don't know how they feel about it. Disappointment, of course, reigns supreme. So we used the time to take some pictures. And this is 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. We made about 3 or 4 knots with one engine. Obviously, they were being quite careful and not trying to stress that engine. 14 days. welcoming party waiting for us. Members of the South African Radio Relay League and of the local club. We've been in contact with them for some time. They helped us with getting room reservations there at the hotel. But they didn't tell us they were going to surprise us by coming out in one of the guys' sailboats. Anyway, it was a great surprise, and we really felt better about it. Then they threw what I would call a real wingding of a party at the Royal Cape Yacht Club. And here's some shots from that. They had people come in from Johannesburg, which is a flight. It was the head of the president of South African Radio Relay, the president of the Namibian Radio Relay League flew over. There's probably 40 members, let's say, from the local ham community. And they just really treated us well, made us feel better. I've got this picture in here because I just want you to look at the smiles on these faces and the fact that the big dark spots under their eyes are gone now and had a good night's sleep. That's the team I knew before we left. So, a lot of people say, well, Bobby, you hired the wrong boat. Well, in hindsight, maybe we should have found another boat, but on the other hand, we couldn't find another boat. They're not lined up to take people to a place like that and then stay for 2 weeks. In our process, we chose basically the same contractor that took us to Cedar One, which is a similar situation. Not quite as far, but you fly in helicopters onto the glacier and you camp there for, a couple of weeks. So they had just bought a new old boat and we're in the process of a $2.5 million renovation. So George Nicholson and I went down there in April and inspected the vessel in dry dock, signed a contract on July 1st of last year, and included for the first time something called a fit for purpose questionnaire. In other words, here's a checklist of everything that we think you should do and everything that we want done. And we want it by December 15th. So, in addition to that, we had a Skype call during our Atlanta team meeting. We had 18 of the 20 guys here in Atlanta for 3 days. And George and I and KJOIR on occasion were on Skype calls. We were emailing daily. We were in touch, and we knew they were behind schedule. But all of the things all of the reasons they had delays all made sense. They were all explainable.
Bob,
for example,
what kind of things just an example of what might be on a fit-for-purpose contract?
I want to show you one.
Okay,
Yeah. Great lead there, Tom.
thanks.
And of course, we had to have all inspection certification permits prior. And we got those. I'll show you those as well. Now, you wanted to see one. Here it is. Can you read it? Probably not. I can send you a copy if you like, but it's just all the things. We used a sea captain, one of the team members, and also Nigel, the guy who owns the Braveheart, helped us put out this list. So we wanted to know everything about the boat, what its condition was, what its rating was it approved, if not, when will it be approved, giving an example of the kind of delays that they had. The interior section that I showed you earlier with the communications room and the MEG and all the cabins, that was all supposed to be pre-manufactured in China and shipped to Punta Arenas, Chile. It was supposed to be there by the end of September. When we were there in January, it still hadn't come. And what they had to do was build it out causing delays, obviously, build it out, of local materials. I don't know whether that thing ever arrived or not, but you know, you say, well, we've been delayed because the interior parts for the passengers hasn't arrived from China. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna build it out, use our carpenters, and they did a great job. But it added about $50,000 to the cost, not our cost, but theirs. Safety certificate is issued by the Chilean Navy. They are the maritime authority in Chile. Everything is current through 2022, confirms that all items and systems on the vessel were tested and approved. The long document is signed after each inspection. This includes engines, shafts, clutch, propeller, electronics, communications, and so on. So we had that in our pocket when we were done. Yeah.
Do DXpedition crews like yours share your information with other DXpeditions? In other words, the processes you've gone through to certify, does that ever happen? Do these communities share this information with each other, these groups?
The honest answer is we're pretty much in competition with each other.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, no, it's true. And there's some great competition out there. The Germans, the Italians, several US-based groups that are doing a great job. For example, we have a manual that we put together over the last 20 years, a team manual. It's got 250 pages in it. We're not sharing that. And we'll let them figure it out. We got a lot invested in everything. So anyway, here's our author. Anyway, we're ready to go. What did we learn? Well, we learned it's a dangerous place. We learned that there's never good weather. We learned that the weather windows, when you have them, are short and not frequent. We know the seas around Bouvet are wild. No place to hide, no lee shore, if you will. And we need to, next time, I think, do the minimal viable configuration approach like we used before. I might also add a good team is essential. No sissies allowed. Next time, maybe. 87% of the team said yes or maybe to another try. But can we find another vessel? Can we find another helo or two? Can we find new team members able to pay the big price and have the time? Can we find the money?
Hey, Bob?
Yeah.
Would a different ship have done any different under those circumstances?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. The interesting thing about Batanza is I think the ship is perfect. And I think it's probably going to serve DAP very well. But keep in mind, I mean, I've had people say, well, you didn't really have a good trial run. Keep in mind that engine failed after 15 days. And we know the conditions under which it failed. So the captain, boat captain on our team, said it could happen to anybody. It could happen to any vessel under those conditions. And the one thing I would like to do, if I had a choice, is to leave from Cape Town a lot quicker. And you're fighting into the wind and into the waves on the way when you're most excited, rather than having to sit there and wait to go home. You have a fast trip home. Yeah.
Why was the Chile departure point chosen over
No place we could find a boat.
Yeah, the boat was out of Chile.
Yes. And a boat that we could afford. There are other boats, but I don't think there's enough money in the hand community to do it.
Did the boat company lose money by not completing it?
Tremendous, yeah. We got half of our money back, and they spent 30 days in Cape Town. They wanted to go home, obviously. They probably, I would be guessing, but millions, they lost millions. And last I heard that they were contemplating some lawsuits for the contractors. I don't know. I'd like to find out. So next time, well, just summarize it. Is it worth the money, the time, the effort, and the risk? I don't think it is for me. I think it's over for me. And I'll show you why in a minute. So this is the guy that's going there now, 3Z9DX. Small team. The rumor is a sailboat. But as far as we're concerned, we could not mount another attempt for at least 18 months. And that's frankly too long to hold your money. Much as I'd like to, and have half the money we need to do it again, the decision then made is to make an offer for a refund. So we're not sure exactly how we're going to do it. The container is back, we're unloading it now, we're shipping stuff back to the people that loaned us stuff. I got a $1,000 bill today for some of the medical stuff that we took with us. Getting all that paid, find out what we've got left, compare that to the amount that we had, and come up with a percentage. And then we will offer you and 3,700 individuals and another 125 clubs an opportunity to get a refund. And I think these are going to be the options here. Option one, yes, I want a refund. And here's a PayPal address, because I'm not going to write you a check and mail it. We'll do it by PayPal, worldwide. Number two, I'd like to direct my refund to the Bouvet team to offset their considerable expenses. Number three, I'd like to direct my refund to Northern California DX Foundation or the International DX Association or other DX foundations. Still working on that one. If you don't do anything, if we don't hear from you, then we'll give it to the DX foundations and go in their general fund and fund other DXpeditions. Major sponsors, we want to thank everybody, including you all. Flex Radio, DX Engineering, and here's my personal observations. Our contract called for 21 days at the island. That would allow 10 to 14 days on the air. We knew about the weather. We didn't know as bad as it was, but we'd encountered these situations before. But we only got 3 days, not 21. But if not for the abort, we would have gotten on the island and made QSOs, I'm sure of that. It may have been a smaller operation, like we talked about. The engine failure was not the fault of DAT, it was a contractor, the only thing we could figure. Last heard, they were pursuing litigation. I thought I'd share this with you. Now we're going to have some fun, if I can have another 15 minutes. We're going to talk about the other end of the spectrum, okay? Where it's fun to go on the DXpedition. This one was supposed to be a week. We actually got 6 days on the air, and I'll tell you why. We were trying to go somewhere in the Pacific that had air service and didn't involve a boat ride. We needed a radio-friendly hotel. You know, a lot of those places on the beach, which is where we wanted to be, are worried about the other clientele. And the guys that I went with had been to the Austral Islands, which is a separate DXpedition entity, the year before. So we went back there, and here they are: 35MJ, 35RF, 35SJ, K5PI and his wife, K4UEE. I was born in W5, I guess that's it, connection. And one of many pictures. By the way, I think the current QST has got a little story on this. But what do we take? We still took a lot of stuff. 248 items for 3 stations. I had 5 radios, 3 amps, 11 antennas, so on and so forth. The French possession, talk a little bit about French Polynesia. Within French Polynesia, there are 5 island groups. I'll show you those in a moment. Because of the separation from the Friendly Islands, which is where Tahiti is, it's the largest island in the Friendly Islands, separate country. It's far enough away to go to the Austral group that it counts as a separate country. Same thing with the Marquesas. So FO prefix is French Polynesia long, and FO/A is also FO/M is Marquesas. Now the French are issuing these TX things. 69% live on the Big Island. All right, here's it. All right, so the group is down here on the left-hand side. You see Tahiti. That's the Society Island. Just south of there, not just south, a 4-hour flight south of there, are the Australs. Over to the right is the Gambier Island. And one of the islands in the Gambier group is Bangativa. And that's where the Ducey expedition left from. That's where the Braveheart met them. And go up now, at the right-hand side on the top, the Marquesas. And then there's another group called the Tuamotu. So right in that group of islands, 1,200 miles, there are 3 DXCC entities. All those signs are in English and French. Popular tourist destination, about 200,000 visitors a year. 40% from the U.S., 20% from France, so on and so forth. But most of them are going through Papeete, the capital of Tahiti, on the way to Bora Bora, or Tahiti, or Moorea, which is a 30-minute ride from Papeete. And most of them just interact with a hotel. A lot of destination weddings to that part of the world as well. So it's from Atlanta, it's 5 hours to LAX, and then 8 hours from LAX to Papeete, and then 4 hours from Papeete to Reavii. Unique antenna design. This is a 20 and 17 meter, I don't know, we call it a Y, I guess. And you change bands by adjusting a little coil. And Bob, K4UEE, made 800 Qs on this. A number of them on FT8. You've probably seen this before. This is on the island of Moorea. Beautiful shots. These are all my shots, but they're not quite as spectacular as on Bouvet. So then we were to fly to Reavii on Monday. I got there on Saturday. We were to fly on Monday. We got, there's one of these puddle jumpers, island jumpers, got to the last island before our destination, and the weather closed in. So we're going from roughly 5 degrees south of the equator to 25 degrees south of the equator, and it's winter, believe it or not. So they aborted and flew back to Papeete, and we spent 2 days just taking tours. So the next flight was on Wednesday. Here we are. That's what the island looks like. Is that classic or what? Is that beautiful? Cost us about $100 a day. Radio friendly. They host usually host a amateur radio operation once a year. These are the cabins that are right on the beach. That is the third one. That's Trish. Trish was one of our photographers, and all around fun gal to keep our sanity, help us keep our sanity. Thank goodness for this little store right across the street. No water and other liquid things. And this is the rest of the establishment on the other side of the road. From where we were operating in those little huts at the beach, it's probably 100 yards across the highway to where we took our meals. We used vertical dipole at the water's edge. So you know what a dipole is. 2/4 waves, right? You do that with a piece of aluminum, you feed it at the center, you've got some rigidity, and you can set that thing up vertically. And again, we talked earlier about having a vertical at the water's edge. Anybody workers from DX5T? Maybe we weren't as loud as we thought we were now. My favorite band is 160. We use ground planes for conventional verticals for 30 and 40. Here they are with 2 elevated radials. On 80 and 160, using spider poles to support the wires. And then on 160, that's the 80 meter. There's the 160 antenna. Right at, not in, but right at the water's edge. And in fact, half of the radios were in the seawater. Classic. Classic setup. We use KX3s. I don't think they've been used on the DXpedition before. And we had the Expert 1.3K amps with the pads removed. So we were driving these things to 700-800 watts with 3 watts. We knew pretty much what to expect because K6TU has got one heck of a good propagation system that he uses. So this is what we arrived on the island with. So we knew what to expect, where should something be coming from, on what band, at what time, and the estimated signal strength. This is pretty common now for DXpedition. Made 568 Qs on 160, and we were only on the air 4 nights. 20 was our best band with 5,000 Qs. We didn't plug in a mic for 70 hours. Somebody said, we really ought to get on sideband. Somebody else said, why? Obviously, we're mostly CW guys, and we wanted to do a lot of FT8. So you can see 28% was Asia, 8% Europe, 61% North America. That's the way it usually works. If there's been Japanese guys on the island, it'd be reversed. But everybody wants to talk to home. Our sponsors. Had a few clubs contribute. I think it was number 69, 68, something like that in the most wanted list. So we didn't really, and there's no extraordinary expenses. There's airfare and food and hotel. There's no boat, there's no helicopters or anything like that. So There's no reason to ask for help, but some of the local clubs kicked in a little bit. Okay, you don't want to see the exercise. You want to ask some questions. So let's do that now. Gotta be questions. I didn't do that good a job. There, in the back.
I saw, I saw you had 2 pilot stations listed on that prior slide.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what a pilot station does?
A pilot station, I think let's say, for example, that Mike says, I'm not going to go with you, but I'd like to help. So I will be your pilot station for North America. So what happens is, and we announce that, we give out his email address, and people that want to give us feedback on the island, give it to him. So, for example, this happens all the time. I heard you guys long path on 12 meters. I'm sorry, that wasn't in our propagation thing, but that's something we need to know. So they email Mike, and Mike sifts through everything, picks what's important like that, and gets it to us. So typically on a big expedition like Bouvet, we had 1 pilot on each continent. And the instructions were, if you got feedback, go through the pilot because they're in touch with us.
Would you recommend somebody becoming a pilot station or learning to be a pilot station to just gain experience?
Yeah, I think it's a great way to be part of a...
Without actually going there first.
Well, I don't want to do it. I'd rather go. But yeah, it's a great way to help out. It's a great way to get involved and make a difference. Yeah, absolutely.
One of our club members, Sam, ND1Y, turned out to be, I think he may have been a pilot in Japan for Bouvet. And he certainly did a lot of the translating for your website into Japanese.
Yes, that's right. He was not a pilot, but he contributed. On our fundraising, we had his help crafting the wording and the language for the JAs, Japanese guys, to be solicited, if you will. And we've never done that before. He was a great help. Absolutely, a nice guy. Yes.
Bob, can you share what your total cost was projected to be for Bouvet?
Yes, it was projected to be $740,000. Or you could round that off to $750 million if you want that. We spent $350. So you can do a little math, but you know, we're going to probably be up in about 45% back. Yes.
Bob, there was a recent article in QSP about the different costs and 3 different types of DXpedition.
Yeah.
And cost per QSO and all that. Would you kind of spread that around to some of the people here who don't know about that?
The article was written by N1DG, Don, who is an experienced DXpeditioner of his own right, and is treasurer of the Northern California DX Foundation. He has written a couple of articles like this, but the idea is that what he has done is he's broken DXpeditions into 3 different categories. Caribbean, close. I would say probably what we did would be in the first category. And he says, here's what the costs were, and here's how they were broken down. And then when you take the cost and divide it by the number of contacts, you come up with a cost per contact. Okay? So the other thing of interest to me is that on those kinds of things, as I mentioned before, there were no extraordinary expenses. So the team paid most of the money, category 1. Category 2, it's difficult to get there. It's not out of the question. You might be able to fly in. There's not a lot of hands there, and it's pretty rare. It might be in the top 100. let's say, on the DXEC list. And there you have support from clubs and individuals and from some of the foundations. The costs go up. There might be a boat, but maybe not. But the costs, there are extraordinary costs over and above a flight and a hotel room and a meal. And then you divide whatever that higher cost is by the number of contacts and come up with this measurement of a cost per QSO. And then the third, guess what the third category is, would be like Bouvet, big cost. Half funded by the team, the other half coming from the community, if you will, a boat, probably helicopters. You're gone a long time. It's difficult. And you divide that bigger number by the number of contacts, and you get a cost per QSO contact. I don't remember what the numbers were, but it's not uncommon to have a cost per contact on my kind of expeditions of $5 or $6. Our cost, I don't know what it was in the Australs, but it was a lot, it might have been $1. No, I don't know. The other thing that's interesting is to look at the cost per hour. The cost per hour on Bouvet was estimated to, this is time on the island. How much did it cost all of us to be on the island for an hour? I know. Let's assume we did. I'm sorry, it's not per hour, it's per minute. The number is like $20 per minute. So these are not expensive. There are people, maybe in this room, who would say, boy, that money could sure do a lot of good somewhere else. And I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree. But this is what we do. It's a great hobby. This is a facet of the hobby that I thoroughly enjoy. And I know a number of you do. And it requires your support to do it. Whether you work it or not, that's kind of up to you, I guess. But the pilots are huge. And if you're not on HF, number one, and if you're not looking for DX, trying to work DX, trying to get DXDC, I think you're missing some fun. Other questions?
What's next?
Marietta. I don't know. We're looking at a couple of things. I don't want to go. The only time I would go back to the Antarctic is on a cruise ship with my wife, because I can honestly say it is like going to Mars. It is totally and completely unlike anything you know. The weather, the icebergs, the glaciers, the volcanoes, the animals, the wind, the sleet, the snow. I mean, it's like leaving this planet and going someplace else. And I want her to see that. So far, I can't convince her.
How did y'all prevent seasickness? Everybody have a patch?
Everybody wore this scopolamine patch. Yeah.
Constantly.
And it worked fine for me. I used to sail some, so I knew that it worked for me. Otherwise, I would have trouble. 2 or 3 guys had trouble. I mean, Glenn Johnson is a physician. There's nothing he can do. He's just sick. And my hat's off to somebody that can be sick for 31 days in a row. Yes.
How much power did you run on the FTA?
On the boat?
Well, do you normally run in an expedition now?
We ran FT8 on the boat with barefoot, the 100 watts. Yeah, and we cut it back because it's a mode that stresses the amplifiers. We cut it back to about 300 watts on the island. Great question. Well, I either did a really good job or
You always do really good.
the end is here. appreciate the time you spent.
Bob, before you go,
Yeah.
we had a little powwow over to the side, and I think all the club members would agree that we'd like, even though our contribution was not a significant amount, we always want to support the DXpeditions, but we would like to, for you to apply that from GARS to offset the expenses of the team that went there.
Fantastic, thank you.
Because you guys put an awful lot of money into it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming and sharing it with us. Always great.